Coach, last time I got to talk to you was at the Combine, and I think a lot of fans think that's like the start of draft season, which it is, but you guys work on it year-round. How is the post-Combine process for you? Pro days, top 30 visits, what do those things give you that maybe you don't get at the Combine?
Well, I think probably the biggest thing that happens when you go to the Combine, you do the speed dating thing. You got 20 minutes to talk to a guy, and then you move on to the next player. Now, once you get into this phase of it, there's an opportunity to really get to know these guys. Not just on tape, not just on watching a workout, or not just in that 20-minute speed dating. Now is an opportunity that guys that you're really interested, guys that you're intrigued by, or guys that you want to know more about, you can go spend time with them. You can go watch them work out.
Right.
You can send coaches, you can send scouts to dig a little bit more. And then we have the 30 visits.
Yep.
Bring a number of the guys in that you even want to get to know even more about, or guys that you want to have a medical check on with your own doctors. So this is an opportunity for us to dive in as to who these guys are, as not just football players, not just as athletes, but as young men as well.
Yeah, as a player, I'm not that familiar with the 30 visits. I didn't go on one. What are you doing with them on these days? Obviously, the Combine, you said it's that speed dating, you get film, you get all these different kind of structured elements. What's different? I mean, they're here all day. What do you do?
Right. Well, what they do is they'll come and they'll meet with different people as far as we're concerned. They'll meet with position coaches. They'll meet with the coordinators. They'll meet with me. Then they'll also meet with our strength and conditioning. They'll meet with our director of player development, and they'll meet with our sports psychologists.
Okay.
Just an opportunity for them to just meet and mingle and mix with the different groups of people as well. They'll meet with some of our interns just because they're picking them up, or just because they're helping them with all their travel needs and everything like that. So everybody that's here in this building will or could have a chance to help us get to know who these young men are.
And do you find that players are different at the 30 visits than they are at the Combine? Are they more relaxed? Are they like?
Well, that's what you try to do. Is you try to create a positive atmosphere for them to come in and really kind of let their hair down a little bit. Be very candid about things, and helps us to really understand even more so than who they are.
Right. And I've been on some different teams over the course of my career, and some people use these top 30 visits as a way to kind of mislead other teams. Yep. Is there a little bit of gamesmanship going on here, or is it these are all just purely evaluation?
No, these are purely evaluations. Okay. Again, It is hard because I do get some people saying, "Oh, you want to throw them off?" But well, we really want to get to know them. I mean, because again, you're about to make a serious investment,
right?
And you have to know the ins and outs of who these young men are.
And so that's something that I think, because obviously teams do use these to kind of throw people off the scent. Yep. How do you establish pure draft value? Because obviously, like, you have your evaluations, but you have to know what other teams are valuing. Correct. How do you work that out in this process where everyone's trying to mislead everybody? No,
that's a heck of a question, Logan, just because of the fact that people do see things differently.
Yeah, right.
And it goes back to that old saying about, if you're going to buy a baseball card, and it says, well, I want $10. It ain't worth $10. You know what? You're right. Yes. If you're only willing to spend $5, then that's what it is. Well, somebody may say, well, he's not a first rounder.
Right.
You may say he is.
Yep.
Well, who's right, who's wrong? Well, only time tells. I mean, that's the truth, because you don't know if you spend a draft pick on a guy, if this guy's going to be that guy.
Yeah.
Okay? So everything's a gamble. Everything's a crapshoot.
Yes.
I mean, because if this was a perfect science, okay, then everybody would pick properly.
Right.
I played with Richard Dent, who was a 12th round pick back in the day.
Wow.
And he's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
That's the thing you tell people is so. And everybody says, "Oh, you guys were smart for drafting him."
Yeah.
Well, we had been smart. We'd have taken him in the first or second round.
Yeah.
So this is an inexact science, and sometimes it's about fit, because some guys may go to a team and 4 years later he's gone, and then he goes somewhere else and he prospers. Everybody goes, "Oh, well, why is it?" Well, because it's not. Fit's a big thing.
Right.
Fit is a real legitimate thing, which I mean, if you don't fit an offense, you're not going to play a lot. You're not going to get opportunities. All of a sudden, you fit an offense, and guess what they're doing? They're throwing the ball to the tight end instead of making them a blocker.
Yeah, right. That's not me, Coach. That's not me. So, are there any things that you do to kind of mitigate the risk? You know what I mean? Is it the interview? Is it what is it?
I think, we do a combination of things, obviously. Our scouts, they go and they collect names for the future as well. Not just about the guys that are there, but they're collecting names. They're trying to figure out who's guys that they've got to watch. And they'll watch guys for the next few years as well.
Wow.
So it's not just about coming in it's these 20 guys are possible draftable guys. It's also thinking a little bit ahead of time.
Right.
So they start this process, and they'll have notes that they'll go back and they'll refer to as they start watching guys. So we get very in-depth reports from this group. We have a group of our top guys that are always out there, starting with Marty Herney,
right.
starting with Eric Stokes, and Tim Gribbs and then our national scouts. I mean, these guys are the ones that really dig and dive even deeper than everybody else. Because they're focusing on the now.
Right.
They're the ones that focus on this year's draft more so than the area scouts.
I see. Yeah, and so like for me, for example, like if I watch a receiver, and I see a receiver that doesn't block, he slides down my board because I question his ability, his passion, his love of the game. Do you have anything that you look at when you're watching film?
Well, when I watch tape, and receiver is a good place to start because it's not just about catching the ball. It's not
right.
just about running routes, but it's like you said. It's also about how are you fitting into the offense, because if you're a guy that doesn't run his routes really hard all the time, okay, that's a little bit of an indicator, because if I'm on safety, I'm going back, and all of a sudden I see that the ex-receiver's kind of jogging off. It tells me, he's not involved, so I'm going to look over here.
Yeah.
I'm going to look away from him. Well, that's not a plus. That's a minus in my book. Why? Because he's not playing every play as if he's getting the ball. Because if he released hard outside and went vertical, and now all of a sudden that safety gets pulled out of the middle, or the safety gets pulled out of the half, guess what it's just done? It's opened up a whole portion of the field. So when I watch tape with a specific thing in mind. There are certain positions that I'll watch during 2-minute drills on purpose. Why? Because, I've always been told that, when I learned to watch tape in college, one of the things my coach always told me, he said, Ron, watch 2-minute drills as well. Watch what this guy does under duress.
When he's tired.
Yes, or when it's a stressful time in the game. When they have to, they must, they got to. What do guys do? They tend to revert to bad habits. Or what they're comfortable with.
I'm going to steal that. I think that's really good. I mean,
just watching the 2-minute drills before the half or at the end of the game.
Yeah.
And you'll see, and the other thing he said too is you'll see who wins and who doesn't win during those things.
Interesting. I love that.
So I've really tried to pay attention to that. So like I said, there are certain positions. I'll give you a hint. One of the positions is pass rushers and blockers.
Right, because that's the time, man.
Well, it's like this too. When you watch guys, and somebody may say, oh, this guy's got 14 sacks. They say, oh, wow, that's great. But then you watch the tape and you realize that those 14 sacks come mostly when they got these big leads.
Right.
When they're pinning theirs back.
Yeah.
What I want to see is a guy that gets 14 sacks and 10 of them happen during the process of the game.
He's got to work for him.
Exactly, when he's really,
sacks,
truly got to work. And then the other 4 came when they were killing people and they could pin their ears back. I want to see these guys. So I'm trying to find these little things that help me as I watch these guys and try and figure out who's who.
And then one of the things I think is most difficult when establishing like a big board, it's hard enough to grade guys like receivers versus receivers. But how do you take a receiver and say, how does he compare or add value to our team, like if he's to an offensive lineman, for example? What is your process for that? Is it just kind of this player is generational, he moves up, or like how do you work that out?
Well, as you go through it, you do look at guys and say, wow, this is a generational player. This is a once in a lifetime. I mean, I can remember watching Luke Kuechly and going, oh, this guy's pretty special, man, And when you put him up there and you sit there and say, God, even if we didn't need a Mike linebacker, we're taking this guy. But to me, those are few and far between. Right. So when you do come across that guy, you put him there and say, this guy is that.
That's kind of the easy one, right? But how do you do it for everybody else?
Well, when you're looking at everybody else, it's one of the things I like to do is, and we talked about this earlier, is that I want to watch guys against certain teams that I know are really good defensive teams. I want to watch offensive players. Right. If this is a real stout defensive front, I want to watch running backs. I want to watch blockers because I want to get a feel for how well does this guy play against the front 7 of Georgia. Right. Okay. Georgia's front 7 had 8 guys. Okay.
Have you ever seen any defense like that? That's uncanny.
I know, but think about this. Georgia sent 8 guys from their front 7 to the combine. You say, wait a minute, 8 out of 7, that doesn't add up, Coach. That's because they had one other guy that rotated through. So they had 8 legitimate front 7 guys that were at the combine. So I'm trying to watch running backs against that group. I'm trying to watch blockers against that group because that's going to mean. And I sit there and say, guy, oh my gosh, he blocked that guy. That's pretty doggone good. So that helps me. Those are the things that I look at.
Right.
Or on the inverse, is it a defensive guy that's playing against? There's a couple of sophomore wide receivers that are coming in, and I'm watching this corner going, wow, he's shutting that guy. That's a pretty good guy. Or again, and a little bit of a hint, but the Ohio State receivers.
Yeah.
You watch those guys against DBs and you go, wow.
Yeah.
If this guy's sticking with this guy or this guy's sticking with that guy, that's impressive.
Yeah.
So those are some of the things that I try to do as well.
Absolutely, yeah. I think those are all really good techniques. The other thing that I have a hard time when I'm doing my evaluation is the college game is different than the NFL game. And so how do you take a skill set that you see in a college player and then project that to the NFL?
Well, again, that's good because in the NFL, there's 32 teams. And in my opinion, there's 32 good left corners.
Right.
There's 32 good right corners.
Right.
So that's the thing that, again, that's why I try to watch who I think are really good players against really good players. So I try to get a better assessment. And when it really gets hard is from some of these middle conferences, that aren't top. Now you start watching them and start going, oh wow, I'm not sure if this guy's, that's going to transition to playing against this type of a player all the time.
Yeah.
So that is hard, and I don't disagree with that. But what you do is, like, we drafted, when I was in Carolina, a corner from one of those middle conferences. Yep. But the thing that I saw was when they played these top-notch teams,
he was ready to go.
In these top conferences, he played pretty well. He really did. I mean, it's like he rose to the challenge. You go, that's impressive. I mean, that's really cool to watch a guy step up against a top quality competition and show out nicely. Senior Bowl's a good indicator for a lot of us too, because there'll be some of these smaller conference players that will come in and play in these things, and it really gives you a chance to evaluate them. Why? Because they're playing against top talent.
Yeah, and then the other thing you see coming out of the combine especially is these guys that test really well. Like Trayvon Walker comes to mind. You mentioned the Georgia defense. You don't need to talk about him specifically, but how do you take great athletic production or great athletic measurables and kind of okay college production and say this guy's going to be X at the NFL level?
Well, again, that tells you what his potential can
be, right?
And so either he didn't put it out there all the time, or they didn't get it out from him. You've just got to determine if this is a kid that you believe that has it and wants to put it out there, but he hasn't been taught. And no disrespect to the college coaches, but it's a different type of coaching that we'll do, as opposed to what they get to do.
Interesting. I always find that scouts evaluate a little bit different than coaches, because coaches say, I can turn this guy into something, as opposed to a scout who says these are the height, weight, speed things. You know what I mean?
But we also say fit.
Right. Yep.
Because it's crazy. Because during this process, and today starts the evaluations where the coaches will go in. We'll do our presentation by position to the scouts. Okay. Okay. And what we'll do is I'll start it off, and then I'll have each coordinator get in and talk about fit by grouping. So if we start with, I know your favorite position, tight end. We'll get up there, and Scott will get up there, and he'll say, look, this is what we're looking for as far as tight ends are concerned. Okay, we want a guy that can do this, this, and this. We want a guy that can do this, this, and this in terms of, because you know as well, there's your all-everything tight end, who's usually your number one. Right. Then there's your pass-catching tight end, who's usually your number two. Right. And then there's this blocking tight end that when you go to 13 or 12 personnel, you want the big guy in there, right? So that's what you're looking for. And so he'll present that, then the positional coaches will get up there, they'll give their report. I see. Then Scott will follow with his report, and then if that guy's on my list, I'll throw my 2 cents in. But usually by then the coaches have covered it, and then the scouts will talk about it. So then we'll be able to say, the scouts go, well, you know what, I really do like this guy's athletic ability, but it doesn't sound like he's a fit here.
I see what you're saying.
So we'll try to make sure that through this discussion, we get to the right place on each guy.
Gosh, that's so comprehensive.
Yes, it is.
So on draft night, sometimes you hear about these kind of these fights on draft night. Is it because the fit's not right, or because guys just value different things differently within the room? Like what's going on there?
Well, it does, and for us as coaches, it's always about fit. But when you get a scout that's really passionate, it's because I've watched this guy for 3 years. This guy has shown that he can do this, this, and this. Okay, he may not show it all the time because of what they do. Right. But he has that skill set that translates to what we do, Coach. We got to really look. And so sometimes we'll come back into the office and we'll pull the kid up And we'll watch
on
him
draft
again.
night?
Oh yeah, on draft
my
night. And we'll
gosh.
watch him again, and we'll watch him as a group. We'll have 6 or 7 guys will be crowded around the screen,
Yeah.
and we'll be talking about it. And somebody says, "See, this is what I'm talking about. Watch him run this route. See, I'm telling you, he can do this." Or, "Hey, watch the way this guy fires off and plays with leverage. If we can get him to do that all the time, we got to fit." So, but then
Yep.
for us coaches on the inverse, we may go, "Hey, watch this. Look at that. See, that just shows you he's not capable."
Right.
So it's a heck of a discussion.
And that's the thing that I find when you're doing evaluations, like you mentioned the receivers, you see one guy run a really crisp route, nice break, and then everyone says, "Oh, that's what he can do. That's what he's capable of." But if he doesn't do it all the time, how do you
Or
know?
is he a by numbers guy?
Yeah.
If I'm a corner and I've studied this guy and I know every time he comes out and he comes with his head down, he's going to pivot back. Guess
Right.
what I'm doing? I'm anticipating.
Right.
Okay, so you may say, he's a little stiff. He's a by the numbers guy. And you go, "Oh, okay, I see what you're talking about." Okay, or like you said, I watch this way. Now he comes to make that break and he settles his hips. But guess what he does? He can go left, he can go right, or he can stutter and go. You
Right.
go, "Oh, wait a minute, this guy's special."
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Coach, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Every time we talk, I learn something new. So thank you so much.
I appreciate it.
Appreciate it.